Hello everyone, this is Steven from the Even Steven channel, and today is my 1000 round review of the Smith & Wesson model 627-5. I believe that -5 means 5th generation. This is Smith & Wesson's current offering of the Smith & Wesson 627. I'm just going to call it the 627 from now on. Saying Smith & Wesson 627 every single time is a little much. This is the 627 Pro Series. So it's a little bit of a stepping stone intermediary between the standard production guns and the Performance Center. And I think at this point there is no standard 627, just the Pro Series or the Performance Center. But we're going to focus on this gun. We're going to talk about this gun and what I've learned about it in those 1000 rounds. And if I might say, there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to tell you that you're not going to hear in other reviews. I don't know why. Just is. And if you are considering buying a gun like this, I would very much recommend you watch the entirety of this video. And I challenge you to tell me you've heard some of these things in this video in other people's videos. Again, not every single thing, but a couple of things here and there I feel should have come up in other places. Anyway, so if you're willing to come along for the ride, let's go. 1000 round review, 627. We're going to do a very quick overview of the gun because I have my initial video on it, like my first look. So I'm not going to rehash all that too much. But for the people who didn't watch that video, we'll start with the markings. Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum, or S&W 357 Magnum, which means it will also shoot 38 Special. 38 Special is the parent cartridge, the original, and 357 Magnum is the more powerful version of 38 Special, so any gun made for 357 Magnum will shoot 38 Special. It tends to be a little cheaper, a little easier to shoot. We have trademark, regular patent office, the Smith & Wesson logo. Smith & Wesson logo here again. Let's see, the Pro Series, made in USA, a word that I do not believe is English. Two words. Smith & Wesson, Springfield, Massachusetts. Smith & Wesson again. Let's go to the grips. I like the grips. This is like a one-piece rubber grip made by Hogue. Hogue makes this, and I still like it. It's excellent. Fits my hand very well. I'm not a big fan of like finger grooves on guns. However, it happens to fit my hand very well, and I like it. And I don't think I'm going to change this. Yeah, I like it. Moving on, we have the hammer. The hammer is a cast part. It kind of has a black, oxidized, or tarnished look to it. I don't really care for it. See how it's kind of scratched up? I don't really care for that, but it works. The trigger also appears to be a cast part, just because of these little indentations here. You would not mill that out, so that's a cast part as well. However, again, it does work. We have the cylinder release. Works very well. The big selling point of the 627, any version of the 627, is that it's an 8-shot 357 Magnum revolver, which is the highest capacity you can get for a gun of this type that I know of. I mean, there might be some weird custom thing somewhere. Don't say there's no 357 Magnum revolver that holds more than 8 rounds. There is probably something somewhere, however, it's not commonly available. We've got the cylinder, we've got the extractor, star I guess that's called, ejector rod. The cylinder crane right here. This right here appears to be a little bit of a buffer, maybe, for the ejector rod. See this right here, this little, I'm trying to point in focus. A little bit of a buffer there. It's kind of spring-loaded, kind of moves back and forth. And it's either a buffer to kind of impact the impact, to kind of deaden the impact of closing, and maybe it's trying to keep everything tight and in place. See how it's pushing against the ejector rod? It might just be an idea just to keep things nice and tight. I don't know the exact purpose of this. Okay. Alright. When I push on the cylinder release, that moves. I wasn't aware of that, but it does that. Okay, I didn't know it did that. I just learned something just now. The gun has obviously been shot quite a bit. It's all scorched up there. Sights are pretty good. It has a kind of a U-notch with a white outline, almost Glock-like, and a little bit of a white front sight there. The rear sight is fully adjustable. You can remove this, put an optics mount on there. Front sight, I wish this was a little brighter shade of orange. It's a little dark. I don't necessarily want it to be yellow. I just want it to be a brighter shade of orange, if I could get that. We got a 4-inch barrel, and we got weight reduction cuts here, just milling. This kind of general milling cuts here, here, there. Along there. Sorry. The gun weighs, I think, approximately 43 ounces. So despite the attempts at trying to reduce weight off of here, it's still a pretty heavy gun. Still a pretty heavy gun. In single action, the gun is really nice. Very light and crisp. Really, there's no real movement here. As soon as you push any amount of pressure on it, I don't know the weightage. Is it a 5-pound trigger? I don't know. But typically, I fire in double action. And honestly, while it's better than most revolvers, better than most standard production revolvers, typically revolvers have pretty awful triggers. And this one is just kind of serviceable. It's okay. Feels a little heavy. You can kind of stage it a little bit right there. Overdid it there. You can kind of stage it. Let me do right hand, see if I do that right. Sometimes I can stage it a little bit, and that last bit of pressure is more akin to a single action pull. There's no firing pin on the hammer. I didn't know where it was, but as I understand it, and I don't think I could show it. Let me see if I can show it on camera. The firing pin is right here, and when the hammer goes forward, it hits that firing pin. Can I show that? There it is. There's the firing pin. I wasn't sure how this worked, and I believe this here is a hammer block. That when the hammer is forward, this little piece comes up and physically blocks the hammer. So like I said, double action is okay. A little heavy. A little stagey. Could be just a little bit nicer, honestly. However, I do like the gun. I think it's a very fun gun to shoot. I think it's a relatively accurate gun. I don't have targets with me right now. In my first shots video, I had targets. I will say, practically speaking, it does seem to be a very accurate gun, even with the double action trigger pull, which is above average, but still not great. I find the gun balances well. My other gun of this type was a Ruger GP100 with a 6-inch barrel. That was a little bit front heavy. I think the gun balances well. I think the combination of the balance and the grips and the ergonomics have a gun that is very pleasant to shoot in either 38 Special or 357 Magnum. Neither one seems that bad to shoot in this gun. The 357 Magnum is surprisingly pleasant to shoot in this gun, I will say. So, I like the gun. Shot it a bunch. About 1,000 rounds. I haven't been like writing it down. However, I've shot it enough. I did a class with it. I did a competition with it. I've shot it a bunch. I feel at this point I must have had 1,000 rounds of this gun. So that's just the gun by itself. And in this 1,000 round review, I'm going to start talking about accessories, which is something I normally don't touch on a whole lot with guns, but I feel this gun is a little bit of a specialty, that certain things need to be addressed. Now, a gun like this, doesn't have to be, is typically expected to be used in some kind of entry-level competition. I'm not a big competition guy. I've done a little bit of USPSA shooting, a little bit. But there's IPSC, IDPA, I don't know all the rules. They change every week. However, a gun like this might be expected to be an entry-level competition gun. So what would you need for something like that? Well, you might want a holster. So this is the Speed Bees brand holster, end frame. This is end frame 4-inch. So the way Smith & Wessons work is they typically have standardized frame sizes like J, K, L, and N, and then like the super big ones that are X. So end frames are typically one of the bigger sizes of Smith & Wesson revolvers, and the Speed Bees kind of has standardized holsters for it, and it fits in very well. I have it adjusted relatively loose. So I really don't need it to hold it that well. If you turn it upside down, it's going to fall out because I haven't tightened it a lot. There are adjustment screws here, and you tighten that down more, and it's going to hold it in tighter. It's a pretty basic holster. You can adjust it's made to go through a belt loop, on your side. You can adjust this up and down a little bit, but the way it came fit my belt perfectly, and it's fine. not a whole lot of people are making Kydex holstered for Smith & Wesson end frames. So Speed Bees is one of the few companies that is offering that. So we got holsters. Now, you might also want a clip holder. So this is something that looks a little strange when you look at it. But this, again, is also supposed to go on your belt. I forgot how you can like pop this open somehow. You can and adjust the amount of height for your particular belt. But basically this is just a magnet, and it'll hold your clips in like that. And this is also from Speed Bees. It doesn't have their name on it. Speed Bees. And this is also great. You can get one of these that has two of them. I have two of these. But you can also get like the 8-round belt thing that goes across your stomach, and that seems to be a little much. So I have two of these two clip holders here. I have like one on one side of my stomach, on the other side, you know. And they're fine. They do exactly what's supposed to. Just a magnet here. It holds the clip in place. You grab them off, throw them in your gun. So that's good. So we got the, let me just put it like that. It looks nicer as I'm going through other things now. So we got the holster, we got the clip holder. What about clips? Well, there's more than two, but there's two main brands of clips. One is from Speed Bees. So they make the clip, make the holster. They also make the clip holder, they make the holster, they also make the clips themselves. And I will say these clips I find to be a little bit delicate and a little bit, yeah, delicate. A little delicate, easy to bend. They are typically easier to load, but they tend to hold the cartridges in a little bit looser than I care for. And I typically have gone to the conclusion that I don't want to use the Speed Bees brand clips anymore. I like the holster. I like the clip holder. I just think their clips are a little too delicate and easy to bend. And what happens is if you bend these, put it back out, which is not too hard to do. If you bend these, then what's going to happen is you're going to start having misfires. The cartridge is going to be presented at a slightly different angle than it's supposed to be. You know, up, down, left, right, whatever it is. And the gun is not going to go off. And that is not something you want when you're shooting your gun. You want your gun to go off. And I've seen the Speed Bees brand clips most likely to have misfires from the clips being bent. So I'm going to recommend you don't buy that. But if you don't care and you like them, whatever. That's on you. My recommendation is not to use these. Now, what comes with the Smith & Wesson 627, they come with TK Custom brand clips. And I'm trying to see if I can see the logo on there. But these are TK Custom brand clips. They're there's a little more material here. They're possibly a little thicker, but definitely stronger. Holds the cartridges in tighter. However, they are more difficult to load. And while the Speed Bee clips, you can probably get away with loading them by hand, these TK Custom clips, you almost definitely need a loader and an unloader tool. So now we have more stuff to buy. So I have the TK Custom brand loader. And basically what you do is, these are already loaded, but you would put cartridges in here one at a time. I typically do it with my left hand. I put a cartridge in like that, rotate it, cartridge in like that, until you have all 8 cartridges loaded. It does make it a lot easier to load. Now, if you're going to load the clips, you should probably get some kind of unloading tool to go with it as well. And this happens to be the Speed Bees brand unloading tool. I don't know how I got the TK Custom brand loading tool and the Speed Bees brand unloading tool, but I just ended up with that. Whatever, that's not as important. And with the Speed Bees brand ones, you're basically doing this. You're putting pressure here, and you're just kind of popping them out. It's almost like kind of like a wrench. TK Custom sells one. Theirs looks more like a screwdriver, and it's basically a screwdriver, but it's doing the same thing. It's kind of like putting pressure in a certain spot to give you mechanical advantage to pop these cartridges out. The TK Custom one might work a little bit better. However, this one's smaller. You can kind of keep it on your belt, so whatever you want. And just to show the act of putting them on, because I have this, I just pop a couple off. Let's see if we can put a couple on. Right back on. And it is not going. These have gotten a little beat up, so I kind of use them just for practice. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure that this is going into the extractor groove properly. It's really easy to have these clips be a little bit high, and now the thing is like off-centered, and then things are starting to bend and things are starting to get weird. So make sure that when you're loading these, the cartridges are going into the extractor, you know, the extractor groove of the cartridge is going into the clip properly, or else you get all bent up and get a little weird. You don't want that. So we got the clips and the clip loaders and the clip unloaders and the holsters and the clip holder. If I didn't say it all incorrectly, you know, all this stuff: holsters, holder, clips, loading tool, unloading tool. You got all this stuff going on. So, can I recommend the Smith & Wesson 627? And I will say yes. I do like the gun. Again, I think the trigger could be a little nicer. Make sure this is unloaded. The trigger could be a little nicer. Double action could be a little nicer. A little stagey, a little heavy. You can go off and send this for custom work if you want. However, this is not an inexpensive gun. This gun MSRP is for like $1,100. So I just think an $1,100 gun out of the box should have a little nicer trigger. A little bit. I'm just being honest with you. And also, with this particular gun, let's see this example. The loading is not always so smooth. I didn't think I hit it right. Sometimes when I stick cartridge in here, see, it kind of went in, but it's just slightly out. Maybe I could clean up a little bit. What I'm getting at is here, even when you throw cartridges in, they don't always go in so smoothly. See, like right now, perfect example. One of these cases might be caught up on the cylinder. Let's see. If I can get it going. There he goes. So first of all, I think I need to clean the cylinder out a little bit. Maybe just get a brush to clean it out, because they're kind of going in a little sluggishly. But on top of that, sometimes the edges of the cartridges will get stuck on the edges of the cylinder. Now, I had to do a whole lot of trial and error to figure out which ammo would work best with these clips and this gun. And the conclusion I came with was the Federal American Eagle 130 grain 38 Special. I tried 5 or 6 different brands of ammo to see which would fit in the gun best, and that seemed to be the best. So if there's any takeaway, I would say try this ammo first. Now, out of the factory, Smith & Wesson does not chamfer the cylinder. It looks like they're chamfering the extractor here. See how there's a little bit of a beveling here, but they don't do it on the cylinder itself. And what that does, if I understand correctly, because I don't have it, the chamfering, just the beveling, the rounding out of this cylinder part right here helps a lot with nice, smooth reloads. And this Smith & Wesson cylinder does not have it. And I gotta say, that's a bad value on Smith & Wesson's part. It really doesn't cost them all that much to just do it. All you're just doing is a simple milling operation, just milling out a little bit of material here, 8 times over. It takes literally like 2 minutes to do it, and Smith & Wesson doesn't do it from the factory. TK Custom does offer that. They call it cylinder chamfering, and currently it's like $100 plus like return shipping. I think you send it to them, give them $100 and money to send it back, and you just send them the cylinder. And the way you're able to just send them the cylinder is by taking the cylinder out, by removing this screw carefully, removing that screw, and once you remove this screw here, the cylinder just comes out. And I believe you could just send the cylinder to TK Custom, so it's not a gun. You send it right in the mail, regular mail, and they'll get it back to you in like a week. However, I really have to say that I think Smith & Wesson should have done this from the factory. They did not. I really think from the factory, Smith & Wesson should have chamfered or beveled the cylinder and put in just a slightly nicer double action trigger. These are not cheap guns. I have to wonder, are those things I just described, the better trigger and the beveled cylinder or chamfered cylinder, are those like Performance Center upgrades? Does that come with the Performance Center guns? Because I know other Performance Center models of the Smith & Wesson revolvers like the 929. The 929 is the 9mm version. I don't believe Smith & Wesson does that from the factory either. And that's an even more expensive gun. So while I do recommend the Smith & Wesson 627, I do like it. I enjoy it. I'm probably going to keep it. I just feel like for the money, there's a couple of things Smith & Wesson should have included with it. And I'm just honestly being honest. And I'm probably going to, honestly being honest, I'm probably going to one day get that service from TK Custom. Their video about it is pretty cool. They have it in a jig, and they have a machine that goes, that's pretty cool. And I'll probably do that one day, but not this week. So anyway, this is Steven from the Even Steven channel. I think I've said all I could say about the Smith & Wesson 627. It is a fun gun. It is a reliable gun, durable gun, accurate. I think the reloads could be a little smoother. I think the trigger could be a little bit nicer. However, all things considered, I'm going to have to clean this one a little bit. All things considered, I do recommend it, and I'm going to keep mine. So if you like the video, please do all that like, share, and subscribing, and I will see you next time. Thank you, and goodbye.